15 is business from the Council President, and sort of become my custom lately to try to bring issues before the public that are sometimes floating out at the national and the local levels without a lot of input. The biggest problem that we see in a lot of these things, and people have heard the comments of fake news and other issues like that, one that's before everybody's radar is climate change. And but few people are invested in the effort to actually investigate what the research is on climate change. Mr. Gore and the actually UN is the agency that has been putting forward the idea that we were in a serious threat from that which we would call climate change. And quite frankly, there's a lot of concern about what the motive for the UN is and how this particular climate change philosophy actually is generated to provide an equilibrium of financing across the world for countries that don't have the same advantages of others. And things like the Paris Accord, of which we would have to donate millions of dollars, would go into substantiate other processes in poorer parts of the world. They also pay for the scientists that are providing the research that they have for climate change, which is an interesting dynamic.
My topic tonight is global warming and income inequity. I am here tonight because I am a resident of the Eastern Shore, and the Eastern Shore is the third, after South Florida and the Gulf Coast, the third most vulnerable region in the country to sea level rise as a result of global warming. The Eastern Shore is also one of the most economically depressed areas in Maryland. So with that, I am going to say that I'm also going to say I'm a high school student and a proud member of Harford County Climate Action and Together We Will Harford County Upper Chesapeake. And I want to say to Harford County, to you, Mr. President, that your claim last week, the United Nations supports the 97% of climate scientists who have come to the conclusion that global warming is real and human-caused, out of nefarious desire to take from the rich and give to the poor, as Robin Hood would have said. The first thing I am going to say is that in contrast to the assertion of you, Mr. President, last week, at which you said that the UN also, and I quote, they also pay for the scientists that are providing the research that they have for climate change, that none of the collaborators or contributors to assessments issued by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which I am assuming is the scientific information that you, Mr. President, were referencing, are paid by the UN. According to a write-up issued by the Union of Concerned Scientists on the machinations and structure of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the vast majority of collaborators and contributors to the IPCC ascertain no payments either from the UN or their host countries, and in the cases where financial relief is provided, it is in the form of travel expense reimbursement from said participant's host country, not the UN. Another falsehood directed at the UN involving the work of the IPCC that you, Mr. President, espoused had to do with the work that the IPCC performs and the sources of their reports. When you, Mr. President, suggested that the IPCC scientists are paid by the UN, you also seem to imply that they produce original climate science, which is not the case. The role of Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reports is to synthesize the peer-reviewed findings of climate scientists worldwide, and then to draw a conclusion based on that synthesis. For instance, the latest and most comprehensive Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change assessment The 5th annual assessment drew from experts in more than 80 countries, more than 830 lead authors and lead editors and review editors, over 1,000 contributors, and about 2,000 expert reviewers in order to come to the conclusion that, quote, human influence on the climate is clear.
Try to come to your conclusion, miss, please.
Okay. In conclusion, I would like to circle back to your statement, your initial concerns, Mr. President, about the alleged agenda of the UN to redistribute wealth, and ask you, Honorable Richard Slutzky, Mr. President, why the goal of increased wealth inequity and poverty eradication would be an evil thing. Why, when the richest 1% own half the world's wealth, when here in the U.S. the richest 1% own more wealth than the bottom 90% combined, when, according to the World Bank, there are 3.2 million Americans classified as very poor and subsisting on less than $1.90 a day, would you, unless you are aligned with the powerful, the elite, not favor more equitable wealth distribution, both in the U.S. and abroad? I am. It deeply concerns me that you, as the President of Harford County Council, seem to be, both in the case of global warming and the case of income inequity, and they are linked, aligned with the rich and powerful in Robin Hood's fight against injustice. And I believe that we can do better.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.